NHL DFS, FanDuel, and DraftKings lineup advice for tonight, November 5th. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, here with the first look at tonight's slate using our tools at occupyfantasy.com. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already to get our latest videos. You can click that subscribe button and then leave a comment if you have any questions about tonight's slate. We'll get to them before the slate locks at 7 p.m. Eastern. What you see here is our Occupy model, our real-time player dashboard on occupyfantasy.com. Access for members only, memberships as low as $2 per week. What we're going to do is, I say a 10-minute video every time. Last time we did get 10 minutes. This one may go a little over because it is NHL. It's a little bit larger slate and a couple ways we can attack it. Just at an early glance, because it is 9 a.m. Eastern as I'm recording this, betting odds will change, lines and potentially goalies will change after morning skate. So what we see here may and probably will change over the course of the day. But this is just an early look, and mostly it's to help you figure out how to use the model and what you should be looking for when you're building your NHL DFS lineups. So let's jump into it. What we see here is our goalies tab. And what this does, ranks every goalie on the slate for tonight. And my very initial first thought is that right off the bat, we have a top tier of two goalies, 9.0 OF index. Remember, that's our proprietary metric that takes into account over 100 metrics to rank each player on the slate. 10 is about the ceiling for OF index in hockey in our model. So two guys having 9 is pretty damn good. And it's no surprise that they are Frederik Andersen and Semyon Varlamov, who have high money lines, minus 220, minus 250. They are the only two goalies on the slate right now with a winning percentage, an expected win percentage of 66% or higher. If you look, Calgary, David Rittich has a 60% chance at minus 160, but he still doesn't rank nearly as highly in the OF index metrics. OF index takes into account not only betting odds, but projected saves, all kinds of advanced metrics, matchups. And so we see here, just very simply, these are the two guys we should look for pretty much immediately in our low risk contests, and even high risk, especially on FanDuel where the win bonus is worth so much more. So we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, we have the New York Islanders. And, we had this set up, I think, last week when we discussed NHL DFS. I think it was last Tuesday when it was a low risk night. And if we sort by opposing team total, this is the implied team total based on the money line and the game total in the betting markets early this morning. You'll see that not only do they have the highest money line, but both Toronto and the Islanders have the highest implied goal total. So for me, this looks pretty easy so far, right? We're going to stack Toronto and Islanders skaters and maybe San Jose, as they have the number 3 team total, and they're likely to be pretty cheap. And we can use either one of Toronto or the Islanders goalies because they're very likely to win. And before I started this video, I took a peek at, if you look at our power play stack dashboard, which ranks every power play unit on the slate because correlation is king in NHL DFS. If we look at it, the 3 highest implied goal totals tonight, Islanders, Toronto, San Jose, have the top 3 power play units ranked. Islanders check in number 1 by a pretty decent margin, and then the Maple Leafs and the Sharks number 2 and 3. So for me, it doesn't get much simpler than this for low risk contests tonight. We should look to play first, and I guess I want to say this because NHL DFS is so similar to MLB, and lineup construction is really, really similar for the different contest types. In MLB, if you're playing a low risk lineup, you want to start with your pitcher. It's the most guaranteed points. It's the most projectable position. Same with goalies in hockey. Start your low-risk lineups with your goalie. So I would fit in Andersen and Varlamov tonight, and then go from there. In high-risk contests, it's a bit different. You want that upside, the correlation, the maximum upside you can get from an assist plus a goal. Same in MLB, where you want home runs plus RBIs plus runs, guys hitting next to each other in the batting order. So for high-risk contests, we're going to find our favorite stacks, start our lineups there, and then fill in high upside, high save potential goalies. Maybe stack them with the skaters in the lineup, but looking for upside at goalie later. So for low risk tonight, we just start with one of those two goalies, Islanders or the Maple Leafs, and then fill in these power play stacks around them and maybe some Island or mini stacks for value plays. And I think we have a pretty easy low risk lineup tonight. So right off the bat, this looks like at least 2 to 3% allocation in low risk. And then looking at some other factors, maybe we also add some high risk allocation too. OccupyFantasy.com is where we are all about bankroll management, contest selection, depending on the type of player that you are. So if you're just primarily a low risk player, tonight looks really good. If you're a high risk player only, maybe you spend a little less tonight, as some of the top ranked teams are likely going to be popular based on betting odds and other metrics. So you might have to go a little bit differently and spend a little bit less of your bankroll. However, if you're a combined player, if you like to go with the flow and whatever the slate tells you is what you play, which is what you should be doing most of the time, you'll likely be playing a good amount of low risk tonight and then sprinkling some high risk around it, which would mean maybe 3 to 4%, 4 to 5%, maybe a max allocation slate. We'll see here as we look at the even strength stack dashboard. All right, so low risk looks simple. High risk, let's jump over to the line stack dashboard that I just mentioned. And remember, if you have questions about NHL DFS in general, you can always check out our intro video that I did right at the start of the season that talks about advanced metrics and how to use the Occupy model. So I'll have the link here during the video. You'll see it pop up. But you can also just leave a comment below. Drop a comment, ask a question. I'll answer it there before the slate locks. Or if you have any more questions or want updates, follow us on Twitter at Occupy Fantasy. I'm posting stuff there as well. All right, so even strength stack dashboard. This ranks every line on the slate, every skating line, and obviously there's 11 games tonight. 66 different lines you could possibly use if you're stacking. It shouldn't really be a surprise because Boston, with their insane correlation, it's like Colorado last year when you have Pasternak, Marchand, Bergeron. Those guys, when one of them scores a goal, it's very, very likely that one or both of the others are involved in the assist. And because of that, they're going to be ranked highly in the line stack dashboard anytime they're on the slate. Just know that tonight they don't have one of the highest team totals, just 2.88 goals. And it's already moved down a little bit, which is a little discouraging. Although, like I said, it's early. Most line moves happen during or after morning skate. So we'll get a better indication there. But, for me, the model has a bias towards them because of the huge upside. But with the low total, the super expensive price tag, maybe this isn't the spot to pay up for them. However, the one thing you got to like is the low ownership. Very rarely can we get those three guys for Boston at, on average 3% ownership. So maybe there's a slate to take advantage of that. If you're playing some cheap high-risk lineups, $0.25 to add on to your low-risk allocation tonight, maybe you throw in one Boston lineup with a full stack. Some other stacks that stick out to me tonight: Vegas, Winnipeg, Dallas, Calgary. So lots of options that are kind of bunched in together here. San Jose's line one. I know we talked about the power play unit for low-risk lineups, but San Jose's line one, pretty cheap, especially on DraftKings, 16.9. Islanders, remember, I think it was the last video we talked about this, or maybe it was maybe 2 videos ago, but when teams have high team totals, people generally flock to their line one. It's generally the best lines, generally the highest goal scorers. We get it. But if you remember that same video, we talked about using Washington's line two, Verana, Tom Wilson, Backstrom, because while they're a little lower projected, they still have access to a high team total, and they're going to be cheaper, and they're going to have lower ownership. So if you look at the Islanders line two, this phenomenon is amplified tonight because not only are they cheaper than the Islanders line one. Islanders line one, 18.6 on DraftKings, 18.9 on FanDuel. Islanders line two, 14.6 on DraftKings, 14.8 on FanDuel, so nearly $2,000 cheaper per stack. But they also have lower ownership. Look, 4%, 2% FanDuel, 6%, 4% for line one. So not only do they rank higher, not only are they cheaper, not only are they lower owned, that's a great combination. We should probably be looking to stack Islanders line two in our high risk contest, and maybe even low risk, depending on if we can fit in some of those more expensive Toronto and San Jose guys. Who's on Islanders line two, you may ask? Well, let's take a look. We'll go to the Centers tab of the Occupy model. And we'll look at Islanders line 2. We have Brock Nelson, who is cheaper and actually, pretty similar OF index as Matt Barzal, who's on line 1. And then if we look at the wingers for the Islanders, Derek Brassard, actually highest ranked winger for the Islanders. Beauvillier, number 2. So, price savings. I mean, look at the price here: 4,100, 4,300, 4,700, 4,600. FanDuel, pretty cheap option. So Islanders line 2 looks like a great stack tonight in all contest types, but especially in high risk. I think they'll go a little under-owned relative to their high team total. So let's see here. We are at I think 11 minutes now. Let's see if there's any other lines that stick out to me. So we talked about Toronto, Vegas, San Jose. We've talked about all of these teams. New Jersey's line 1, just really quickly. I know they have a low implied team total, but some of their guys stick out to me when looking at the back end of the model, just looking at some of the metrics that go into it. High danger scoring opportunities, recent expected goals for each of their skaters. New Jersey ranks pretty highly in a lot of those metrics. Guys like Wayne Simmons, Palmieri, Taylor Hall, of course, Blake Coleman, Miles Wood, PK Subban. A lot of these guys rank pretty highly. So, this is another high-risk stack because of their low total. But New Jersey, with their correlation with some of those guys I mentioned, could be a good high-risk stack if you're making multiple lineups. So hopefully this is a good look for tonight's slate. Again, it is early. I want to reiterate that this can and likely will change over the course of the next few hours. But if you want access to this model to do your own research, OccupyFantasy.com is where you can have access. Memberships as low as $2 per week. This is the NHL Occupy model. Remember that memberships do get access to all of our sports. So not only will you get access to the NHL Occupy model, you'll get the NFL Occupy model, same one I used to win the $100,000 this past Sunday on FanDuel. Speaking of that, be sure to join us tonight on Twitch if you're not following us already. Twitch.tv/OccupyFantasy, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. I will be reviewing that FanDuel lineup that won the $100,000. We'll be taking a look at some of my lineup strategies in general from this past week, and we'll also take a look at what some pros did to try to glean any information we can from the best players in the business. All right, that'll do it. Be sure to subscribe, that red subscribe button below, to get notified when we make any new videos. If you like it, click that like button. And again, if you do have comments or questions or concerns or feedback on how we can improve these videos, please drop a comment below. So again, I'm Brian Jester. You can follow me at BrianJesterFF. You can follow us on Twitter at OccupyFantasy. We appreciate you listening, and good luck tonight.